Type the room into a search bar on YouTube and you will probably be presented with something which looks like this.
I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Or this.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
But aside from that cinematic masterpiece, it's also the name of a fairly well-received mobile game. Well, said mobile game has now been ported to the Switch, with it being touted as the definitive edition of the game. Is it any good? Well, I'm Glen for SwitchUp. Thank you to the developers for the review copy, so let's find out. The Room was originally released in 2012 on iOS and made its way to Android about 6 months later. A PC version followed, and here it is now on the Switch, making its console debut. The basic premise of The Room is that you are presented with a series of puzzle boxes. You must examine them carefully, solving puzzles that will unlock a compartment, usually revealing an object or a clue that will help you to solve a second puzzle on the box, and so on. Once you have solved all of the puzzles on the box, you will be able to unlock its core and move on to the next puzzle box. While this may not sound like the most exhilarating experience, the puzzle boxes are actually quite clever. You really do have to be so vigilant, as clues are hidden absolutely everywhere. On a number of occasions I felt completely stumped, feeling that I had exhausted everything the box had to offer, only to then find a tiny hidden symbol or hidden compartment that set me off and running again. It's very satisfying when this happens, as it gives you that little boost to keep going just when frustration was starting to set in. I also really appreciated that the game never becomes just about randomly clicking the puzzle box until something happens. This is a much more intelligent puzzle experience than that, and you must keep a keen eye and a sharp mind at all times. Early into the game you find a lens that allows you to see hidden texts and patterns. It's worth remembering to use this often, as it may be that your next clue is actually staring you right in the face, it's just not visible to the naked eye. There is also a hint system with a limited number of hints available for all of the puzzles related to each box. There does not appear to be any sort of penalty for using the hints, other than maybe your pride taking a hit, as you are not scored or graded in any way by the game. Perhaps this would have been a worthwhile addition, timing how long it took you to open a box, or at least recording how many hints you needed, something to provide some incentive to replay at a later date. The puzzles themselves are very clever, and it really is impressive how all the small elements fit together to create one huge puzzle. It's very rewarding to get into a flow and start to feel those powers of deduction begin to spark in your brain. You can almost feel your cerebral cortex kicking into life as you play. Repetition did start to set in after a while, but only to the point where I would know when I'd had enough for that particular session, never to the extent where I became bored with the game overall. Gameplay gets 17 out of 20. The graphics are not the sort to wow you when you initially start the game up. The room itself is not much more than a table with some atmospheric lighting. However, when you begin to fully examine the puzzle boxes, zooming in to notice the intricate details of their design, you start to appreciate the amount of work that has been put into making each one look as lavish and extravagant as possible, while also allowing them to function practically and hide all of the secrets that are key to the game. It's pleasing to watch compartments open up as you slowly start to solve parts of the box. It gives the impression of the box being a living entity as it transfigures in front of your eyes. Graphics get 14 out of 20. The audio is a difficult one to explain in The Room. For large parts of the game there is no music, just the sound of wind blowing and windows and doors creaking in the background. Then, every so often, just as you were wishing that there was a little bit more to it, the wind will morph into creepy whispering, or string music will start to play, which just heightens the mood for a moment before dying down. It's much more effective in handheld mode with a set of headphones in, with the effect being lost a little bit on the big screen. Sound effects are suitable, with secret compartments all giving some satisfying audio feedback as you find and open them, but audio is not a strong point overall, and it receives 13 out of 20. In terms of controls, the game uses the touchscreen whilst in handheld mode, much the same as it would have been on mobile. If playing on the TV however, then the game relies on the Joy-Con's motion control capabilities. Having played a few games recently with disappointing implementation of motion control, such as Time Carnage and Goosebumps the game, I was a little apprehensive to play a game that would rely so heavily on this method. Thankfully, while not entirely flawless, they do hold up quite well. You do not have to point directly at the screen, you can get your arm into a comfortable position and then press the R button to centre the camera. This makes a big difference and makes for a much more comfortable experience. ZR is your action button and X allows you to zoom the camera into a point of interest on screen. This all works well and they have chosen a button combination that feels comfortable. The reason I say it's not flawless is that your touch can feel a little oversensitive at times, making parts where you need to rotate an object to a certain angle a little bit fiddly. It's still playable, just something to bear in mind. Touch controls are much more precise and will serve you well whilst playing in handheld mode, with you swiping and pinching the screen to navigate the puzzle boxes. Controls receive 15 out of 20. The room costs £6.99 or $9.99, and were you to play without a guide it would probably take you anywhere between 3 to 6 hours to play through, depending on your skill level. Whilst there isn't a huge amount of replay value, this isn't a traditional puzzle game where you'll play a quick round trying to record a new high score. It's the sort of game that once you've played it through, you'll watch a partner or a friend or a sibling play through next, seeing how long it takes them, asking them if they want a hint, that sort of thing. The price is a fair one for quite a unique game, with a reworked control system to fit its new home, and value gets 14 out of 20. To conclude, The Room is an interesting concept for a puzzle game. It shares a lot in common with the escape room games. Where it shines though is that, as already mentioned, it never boils down to an exercise in just randomly clicking the box until something happens. You genuinely have to solve these puzzles, and when you also factor in decent presentation, a couple of different control schemes to try, and a fair price, The Room hits a lot more than it misses. The Room gets a SwitchUp score of 73%. Thanks as always everybody for watching. We're on for about 8,600 subscribers now, which is absolutely fantastic, creeping up towards that 10,000. Please remember to like if you like what you've just seen, consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, and hit that notification bell if you are subscribed to keep up to date with our latest content. Keep it switch up, and as always, happy gaming.
Oh, hi, Mark.